Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Gabby podcast. My name is Brian Chung, and I am the Senior Director for Programs and Strategy at the Global America Business Institute. Today, I'll be introducing Professor Yongsoo Hwang, who is a professor for special affairs at the KEPCO International Nuclear Graduate School, also known as KINGS. He is also the Center Director of the International Nuclear Nonproliferation and Cooperation Center at KINGS. Professor Hwang, thank you so much for being with us today. Maybe you can begin by talking a little bit about the work that you do.
Yes, thank you, Brian. This is Dr. Yongsoo Hwang from King's. So our school is a very unique school for the international student to master the nuclear engineering for the graduate courses. So we have a lot of new, young, challenging students coming from mainly from the third world countries like Ukraine, Poland, Czech Republic, and the Southeast Asia. And we are together to learn about the basic knowledge about nuclear energy. And also we like to broaden our cooperation with those people and those countries to further disseminate our nuclear safety, security, and safeguard cultures together. And as you know, our school is sponsored by many prominent nuclear power companies in Korea, such as KHMP, KEPCO, and the nuclear fuel manufacturing company, and the architectural company, and others. So we are very keen to have a variety of the technology for our students to master those basic skills for their countries. And we are very willing to work with the global society for the peaceful use of the nuclear energy.
Thank you, Professor Hwang. So you've been talking a lot lately about the idea of Team KORUS, which is a cooperation between the US and Korea on nuclear issues. And I wanted to discuss a little bit more about that. So I did have a question about the cooperation. Can you talk a little bit about the unique strengths of the Korean nuclear industry, as well as some of the gaps that you see in the industry? And can you also talk about the strengths and the gaps in the US nuclear industry? I'm curious how you think the US and Korea can work together to help each other in this area.
Yes. So actually, many people can talk about the strategic partnership for something. But it's really sometimes difficult to harmonize the strengths of the both parties together as a one team.
Right.
But for the nuclear energy, I think we have nowadays golden opportunity to promote nuclear energy together as a one team between United States and South Korea. Of course, United States is the world leader to develop the older advanced technology. US has a lot of private venture companies nowadays for the SMR business. Also, US has a lot of good, outstanding national laboratories, which can develop the fundamental technology, which is the key for the future dissemination of nuclear energy. Also, of course, US has some good regulatory guide system. So US has a lot of soft power, actually, to further develop the nuclear energy. Also, throughout the lifetime of the commercial nuclear power plant market, some US-based companies like Combustion Engineering and Westinghouse and the GE had played a significant role to introduce PWRs and the BWRs to the global market. So all the fundamentals are within the hand of the United States. And we learned a lot of lessons from the United States from the middle of the 1950s. At that time, South Korea didn't recognize the value of nuclear energy, but generously, the US government allowed us to learn the fundamental technology about nuclear energy. So we learned a lot of things from the United States. And we began to try to construct our nuclear power plant with the big help from the US government, Westinghouse, and Combustion Engineering. Without those help, I think South Korea would not develop any kind of nuclear technology uh, for our generation and for the future generations. So we owe a lot of things to the United States. And we continuously construct a nuclear power plant. In the meantime, after the TMI accident in Pennsylvania in 1979, and the very disastrous the Chernobyl event, followed by Fukushima event, the civilian nuclear industry in the United States and the most of the Western European society were collapsed, unfortunately. So even though US has a lot of good background technology and brilliant human resources, due to the lack of the real construction, US has a lot of difficulty to actually construct a nuclear power plant. The good examples are from Vogtle and the southern companies, the failed construction in South Carolina. So in that sense, we can have a very important synergy effect if we can create a so-called team nuclear KORUS between United States and South Korea. So each party has some strong point and weak point. And these two parties can actually create a very, very effective consortium. And as you know, we are now having a lot of rivals in the global energy market, especially these days, China and the Russian Federation would like to penetrate into the global energy market, including nuclear options. And they would like to take advantage of that kind of opportunity to extend their geopolitical leadership. And they have some very good national ambition against the Western society. So obviously, we should team together to retard the aggressive penetration of China and the Russian Federation. So in that sense, it will be very important to tie up together between United States and South Korea. So we already established a very good example for the case of the UAE. So at that time, US and South Korea could develop the joint effort to disseminate our technology to the Arab Emirates to finally construct the 4-unit at Baraka site. So we can actually rely on that kind of good experience to further extend our future collaboration as a one team, not only for the existing Generation 3 LWRs, but also for the future Generation 4 SMR business, which will be very critical for upcoming, the so-called AX era, AI transformation era. In that era, definitely all the advanced technology sectors like AI data center and the chip industry would require huge and stable supply of electricity. And that kind of supply can be implemented by maximally using existing LWRs and advanced Generation 4 reactors. And we can work together to further support the current exciting progress of the SMR joint ventures companies as a one team. So in that sense, I'd like to promote the real value of team nuclear KORUS as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a really great opportunity for cooperation between the two countries, especially given the history of deep cooperation. And you did mention the need for new energy with data centers and AI, and I wanted to talk about that for a little bit. The US is looking to deploy data centers to support a world-leading AI industry. And this may require significant power and new nuclear. I was wondering, could the South Korean industry help the US in building out the domestic fleet required to support the growing power needs?
Yeah, definitely. As some of you may already recognize, the Sam Altman, the CEO of Oklo and the ChatGPT company recently visited South Korea with Son Jung-hee, Japanese venture capital company head, to discuss the future of the AI business. So throughout the meetings, so our big companies like Samsung and SK joined that kind of effort. So we are now facing with a very, very ambitious target, new adventure of the AX industry, AI data center or chip making industries. So one unique country cannot do that mission by itself. So we need a global team effort. So that meeting last week was the good opportunity to exercise the possibility to work together among United States, South Korea, and China as a one team. So we will work together to further develop the chip industry and the software development to support the AI data center globally. And all of them recognize the real important thing. We should establish the stable and cost-effective supply of the energy 24/7, 365, without any stopping. In that sense, small and modular reactor might be the very good candidate to sustainably supply the electricity without any interruptions. So that's the very ambitious goal. But as you know, Rome was not built in a day. So we have a lot of venture companies devoted to develop the SMRs, but it might take time. So we need some temporary measures. Probably we might rely on natural gas or any kind of fossil fuel power, the power plant for the time being, but eventually we'd like to replace those with clean nuclear energy for the future demand. And in that sense, we should have a co-development system. One is directly contributing to the AI sectors, such as the chip industry and the software development. The other one is supply of the energy to entirely support that kind of a global network. In that sense, it will be very important to establish those kind of cooperative framework as early as possible.
Thank you. And I know you mentioned a little bit of this global framework, and then earlier you also mentioned the Baraka case of the cooperation between the US and Korea. And so I also wanted to turn our attention to overseas exports, and I was wondering your opinions on some of the best ways for the US and Korea to cooperate on overseas exports.
Yes. So as you know, we have a lot of good companies which accumulate a good experience throughout the continuous construction of the PWRs in our domestic market and in global market. And we are nowadays working to refurbishment of some existing old reactors in the global market. So, for example, Doosan Enerbility is supplying all the key component for the global customers to upgrade the existing nuclear power. So we have a very good combination of the real hard-working heavy industry, along with I should say, conductor of the orchestra, KHMP. So we have a very good power to maximally use the technology which was originally developed by United States. In that sense, it will be very good to work together as a one team. And also, it's also important to disseminate some kind of nuclear security and non-proliferation cultures in the Middle East. They have so-called some geopolitical uncertainties. So if there is somebody which would like to take advantage of some good opportunity to develop their nuclear weapon potential, it's a very bad case for the global security. As you know, South Korea is one of the good examples as a non-nuclear weapon state. So we are under the control of the IAEA regime, and we are now fully observing the so-called additional protocol, which is the key for securing the global nuclear non-proliferation. So actually, we had a lot of good experience whenever we developed the nuclear power plant in Korea and in Baraka case. So we know how to use the real principle of the nuclear non-proliferation in the field. So we can disseminate those practice and the culture. Culture is very important. To the third country, which would like to maximally use the peaceful use of the nuclear energy. In that sense, South Korea, teamed with the US government, can actually do a significant role, not only to maximally use the nuclear energy, but also to strengthen the global nuclear non-proliferation and the security matters. Then we can claim that that's the real aim for the Atoms for Peace 2.0. So we should further develop not just for the maximum use of the nuclear energy, but also we should work together to strengthen the global regime for the nuclear security and the non-proliferation.
I do think that's a great point, specifically about the non-proliferation cooperation. And I do want to talk a little bit more about the non-proliferation cooperation. But before we do that, I do want to ask you a question about financing opportunities. And currently, financing is a big issue in the nuclear exports globally. What are some financing options that Korea can offer for nuclear plants? And what are some opportunities for the US and Korea to cooperate on financing issues for overseas exports?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's also a challenging point for the South Korean nuclear industry. So we have a lot of strength to construct and operate the nuclear power plant, but we don't have any mighty power to control the global financial market. But US has a lot of good influence to the global economic market. So probably if South Korea would like to work as just by itself, it will be very difficult to attract the global investors to support all the financial need. Probably we can do that, but we have to pay for higher interest rate, for example. But if we work together as one team, US has a good experience to secure all kinds of long-term capital investment for the global project. And throughout that kind of global project investment, US usually earned a lot of money from those good projects. So it's a good business opportunity, not only for Korea, but it will be a very good financial business opportunity, golden opportunity, I should say, to the United States. So that's the reason why we need some kind of a consortium between United States and South Korea. So we can maximally use the huge potential of the US financial system, while South Korea can contribute to the real construction and the operation of the nuclear power plant as one team.
I think that's a great opportunity to solve some of the financing challenges that we've been seeing in the world. You have mentioned a lot about cooperation, specifically on SMRs, and
Yes.
that is something that I wanted to ask as well. Does South Korea have the capability to build a US-designed SMR? And if not, how long would it take for South Korea to develop construction capabilities for these SMRs, given the potential cooperation for construction and design between the US and Korea for Team KORUS?
Yes. Yeah, it's a good question, and it will be a very critical question for the future of the global SMR business. So in that sense, it is very important to construct a real SMR in our planet. So nowadays, we have a very, very bright ideas on paper, but
Right.
we didn't get any NRC approvals yet. So if we decided to work together, then the first question is, we should actually try to construct those facilities, probably in the United States first. and then try to disseminate it to the global market like South Korea and the Middle East. And in that sense, we still have, I believe we still have a problem of supply chain. So even though the size of SM are small, still we need a very stable and challenging supply chain completely from A to Z. In that sense, South Korea can actually do a lot of things for that kind of supply chain establishment. For example, Tucson Energy is currently working with TerraPower and other SMR companies to supply all the key critical components on time. So we can further encourage the manufacturing companies to fully establish the supply chain in association with the US companies. Then we can have a golden opportunity to introduce some of them into South Korean market. And we have a very bright future for the future deployment of the SMR in Korea. I think nowadays it might be a little bit difficult to construct a large-scale nuclear power plant in Korea due to the siting issues. But for the small and modular reactors, there might be a lot of private companies which would like to directly use the electricity and the heat from those SMRs. So we'll have a good opportunity to construct those future SMRs in Korea if private companies decided to invest the golden opportunities.
I do have a question about fuel. That's another hot topic these days in the nuclear industry. And when South Korea exports nuclear technology, how is the fuel supply managed in the agreements? And will this be a concern for South Korean exports moving forward, given the large demand for nuclear energy suggested by COP28? I was wondering if you can talk about some of the ways that Team KORUS can cooperate on the fuel issues.
Yes. Stable supply of fuel is a very critical issue if we would like to further expand the nuclear market in the future. And but it will be very difficult to accomplish that mission within a matter of days, as you know. It will take time and a huge investment.
Yes.
And when we tried to work on the UA case, our responsibility was limited, just to supply the initial core loading of the fresh fuel. Then the UA can decide the future of the fuel cycle by themselves. But nowadays, as you know, due to the Ukraine war, all the existing fuel supply system in the global market was broken. Before the Ukraine war, as you know, Russia actually dominated the global market by itself. But since the Western society would like to ban the further import of the US origin uranium, we now are facing hard time. So for example, TerraPower would like to get the fresh fuel, the helium, as early as possible. But since there is no actually inventory available for the TerraPower at this moment, they have to delay the entire construction of their TerraPower concept by 2 years. So how to secure the supply of the fresh fuel, such as helium or Lu plus, or the special fuels whose enrichment is around 10%, is a big challenge for everybody. And unfortunately, there had been no US company to have a capability to enrich the uranium, unfortunately, after the collapse of USAC. And nowadays, as you know, the Trump administration and the previous Biden administration would like to support the new company, Centrus, as much as possible, so that US can can have their own capability to produce the fresh nuclear fuel and the helium, especially for the future generation 4 reactors. And we understand the concerns from the Western society very, very well, because we are one of the global leaders, active leaders, to continuously construct a new nuclear power plant. So we need the real value of the sustainable fresh fuel supply chain. So we are very concerned about the potential problem in the United States. So we decided to invest a huge amount of money to support the US effort to have the capability for the new uranium enrichment facilities. So this week, the Centros and the KHMP in South Korea made a special commercial contract for the next 10 years. So that's, I believe, the critical cornerstone to cultivate the capability of the Centros further, using that kind of huge money throughout the long-term contract. Nowadays, the Centros might have some room to further invest their money to expand their uranium enrichment capabilities. So they are now working at Oak Ridge to further manufacture highly advanced centrifuges, and they will install those to their existing and the new enrichment facilities in the United States. So South Korea would like to assist in practice for the US effort to actually operate the Western society stable fresh fuel supply chain as much as possible. And this will be just the first step. So if we have another opportunity, actually both Centros and the KHMP, along with the assistance from the United States government and the South Korean government, can further develop that kind of golden opportunity to stabilize the future stable supply of the fresh nuclear fuel.
I hope we can see further opportunities for collaboration in this area between
Yes.
the two countries. Previously, you mentioned non-proliferation, and I wanted to touch upon that topic. Are there ways that the US and South Korea can cooperate on nuclear non-proliferation issues?
Yes. So actually, that was one of the big agenda when we had the summit meeting between United States and South Korea in May of 2023, according to my memory. And both countries claimed together as one team that we'd like to export our nuclear system to the country which fully accept the additional protocol. Additional protocol is the cornerstone for the nuclear non-proliferations. So it's based upon the principle of anytime, anywhere inspection capability. So for example, we will not export anything to country which does not accept additional protocol. So that's the cornerstone for securing our global nuclear non-proliferation and the nuclear security. So in that sense, we have a good opportunity to further strengthen that kind of system as a one team. So for example, in the UAE, they follow the so-called golden rule without any enrichment and reprocessing. But also we work together with the UAE to submit all the information about non-proliferation as a timely manner. So the actually duty for the non-proliferation is simple. So you have to report something annually. But we'd like to have the further cooperation to actually monitor all the existence of the so-called special nuclear material then we can trace all the movement and all the stockpiles almost near time. We can do that actually. So nowadays we have a good IT technology in the United States and in South Korea. So if we can work together, we can actually upgrade the real application of the additional protocol in the real field. So for example, we now have the satellite communication system and a very good online detection system device, which can be attached to the nuclear facilities. Then we can have some called the real-time monitoring of all the special nuclear fuel, such as the fresh fuel and the spent nuclear fuel. If we can monitor all kinds of movement as a real-time basis, then it will be very difficult for the the so-called nuclear terrorist group or any kind of some bad guys to have some kind of bad opportunity to use some special nuclear material for the weapon development. So we can further develop that kind of ideas together as a one team if we decided to work together on that purpose.
Thank you, Professor Hwang. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. And thank you for your contributions. And I really look forward to the opportunities of cooperation between Team Nuclear KORUS.
Yes, thank you. It was a very good opportunity for me also to learn the view of some opinion leaders in K Street and the Capitol Hill yesterday throughout our conversations. So we should further develop the idea of the Team Nuclear KORUS, and then we can work together to disseminate that idea, to implement that idea for the real programmatic project as a one team. So we should work together with all our audience to promulgate the spirit of the Team Nuclear KORUS as a one team in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for your leadership in the Korean nuclear industry.
Thank you.